children of class 10s. So today we shall be resuming with our virtual class, and we shall be starting off with a new chapter, another poem written by David Roth, and the name of this poem is 9 Gold Medals. So this poem, which is a very simple narrative narrated by the poet himself, this is a poem that celebrates the spirit of kindness, the spirit of compassion through the event that he narrates in this poem, through the event that takes place in the 9 different athletes who participate in the Special Olympic game, that is specially the activity around which all these 9 athletes, participants' lives revolve around. Alright? So, I mentioned Special Olympics. Now the question is, what is a Special Olympic? So a Special Olympic is actually, in fact, the world's largest sports organization, where they organize sport activities for people with disabilities. And the reason why they organize such kind of activities is mainly to develop a healthy self-confidence, a healthy relation, a healthy esteem, in fact, to build up self-confidence in them, as well as to build up other social skills that come along their way as they engage themselves in all these various sport activities that are laid at their disposal. Alright, so, and that, this very poem, it talks about 9 different people with disabilities, where these people, they have to run a 100-meter race, and as they are ready to run the race, something happens. And after that eventful day, after that eventful incident that all of a sudden unexpectedly turns up, we see a complete unique sense of experience that we feel, that completely enlightens us, that completely is an eye-opener for all of us, that teaches us a great amount of example. So what is this entire poem all about? Let us move ahead and let us discuss. Okay, so now get ready with your book and your text. Your poem is in page number 37 of your textbook, and so now let's begin. So here I go. The athletes had come from so many countries, so in this Special Olympics, many athletes from all over the country many participants had participated in this game, in this Olympics, to run for the gold, for the silver and bronze, and they came with a great aim and objective, and that was to win either gold, silver or bronze. That was their dream and their aim with which they came to participate in that Special Olympics. Many weeks and months in training, all building up to the games. So many weeks and months in training. This indicates that all these participants coming from various different countries had undergone strenuous training and practice in order to get themselves ready for the D-Day. And that D-Day is that event that was taking place on that day, when all the people from around the world, they had gathered to witness that Special Olympics. So many weeks and months in training, all building up to the games. All building up to the games in the sense that all these people, for the participants with disabilities, they were participating out there. All these participants had undergone strenuous training, and now the day had come to display their talent. So finally, all of them, they were up for the game, ready for the game. Then what happens? The next verse. All around the field, spectators were gathered. People all around had gathered, cheering on all the young men and women. So these young men and women, it is referred to So all around the field, spectators were gathered, cheering on all the young women and men. Then the final event of the day was approaching, the last event of the day, the final race, the last race about to begin. So the last race, which is the last race that this line is talking of? The last race in which the 9 participants who were about to run the 100-meter race, about them, their race was the last race that was about to begin. And since it was the last event of the day of that Special Olympics, people had gathered around with great gusto and excitement. And here in this verse we see, this verse shows the mood of the audience, mood of the spectators who had excitedly gathered themselves around that track where this 100-meter race of these 9 different participants was about to take place. So they were excited to watch the final event of the day. Then the loudspeakers called out the names of the runners, the 100 meters, the race to be run. So this was the last and the final race event of the day to take place. And 9 young athletes stood there determined. Why? What were they determined to do? They were determined to win the race, and they were determined to win either gold, silver or bronze medal. Alright, so all of them were determined. And 9 young athletes stood there determined and poised for the sound of the gun. Poised means they were ready right at the track, poised, ready to listen just to get the signal from the shotgun and run towards the end of the 100-meter race. Yes. So out here, as the poet says that, describes of how all these 9 participants were poised to just hear the shotgun go so that they could run about to the end line. And along with it, the audiences, the spectators who were so excited, cheering around them, you know, all these things, it builds up to the tension and the suspense of the poem, as in what is going to happen next, who is going to win the medal. Alright, so, and then see, the signal was given, that is, the shotgun was shot, it was given. The pistol exploded, and so did the runners on hearing the sound, and immediately the runners also, they started running towards the end line. But at that point, the youngest among them stumbled and staggered. But unfortunately, the youngest among those 9 participants, 9 athletes, he by accident happened to stumble and he fell down. And he fell on his knees to the ground. So, and out here, he fell. And he stumbled on the ground immediately. See, he had a tragic fall then and there. So, out here, as he falls, as this youngest participant of the 9 participants, all of a sudden stumbles and falls down, there is more, the real tension and the real suspense begins. As in, what will happen next? Oh no, what will happen next? One of the participants has fallen down. So, then what happens is, and before I move ahead, see, this line, but the youngest among them stumbled and staggered. So this is, please underline this line, for this is an instance of alliteration where the consonant S has been repeated, alright? S in the word stumbled and S staggered. So this is another figure, this is a figure of speech that has been applied out here, and that is alliteration. So the tension, naturally the real tension, the real suspense, now it starts building up even more intensely and makes us wonder what will happen next. And what happened? See, let's see. He gave out a cry of frustration and anguish. His dreams and his efforts dashed in the dirt. So, this man, this youngest athlete, the minute he fell down, immediately negative feelings started rushing in. He was completely overtaken and consumed by negative feeling. And how did he come to know that he is consumed by negative feeling? He is overtaken by negative feeling is that, see what he says. He gave out a cry of frustration and anguish. Immediately he cried out of frustration and anguish. Why did he cry? Because yes, the first instance the first thought that came across his mind was, now he will lose the race. He will not win the race. For he fell, and the rest, they were on their way to the end line. That is what he felt. And that was what made him cry out of frustration and anguish and anger. And his dreams and the other things that, deepened his frustration was, what? His dreams and his efforts dashed in dirt. He felt that all his efforts, all his years, all his round of years, hard work and training has now turned into dust. All his dream to win the game has turned into dust, for he has now stumbled and has fallen, and now it's a definite that he will lose. So all these thoughts came all at once in him, thereby making him feel even more frustrated and depressed and angry. There was this rage against himself. So, and then what happened? But as sure as I am standing here telling the story, now it's a strange one. But here's what occurred. And this line, this line is the line, as we all know, this is the narrator. The narrator out here is narrating us the story, and the narrator himself, through these two lines, I'm going to read it again. But as sure as I am standing here telling the story, this very line shows that the narrator himself is out there witnessing the program, witnessing the event. He was one amongst the various spectators out there. So whatever we have been hearing so far through the narrator is the first person's view. Alright, so now it's a strange one, but here's what occurred. And everybody were watching, everyone had their eyes on the person who had fallen, the participant who had fallen. And the question that went in everybody's mind, that was raised in everybody's mind, was what will happen next? And then unexpectedly what happened? Now it is a strange one, but here's what occurred. Unexpectedly something very surprising happened. And here is the climax of the scene. So as I told you, what is the climax? A climax is an event in the story or in the poem where when an event of great significance or importance takes place that raises our excitement and surprises us. And what is this climax that takes place out here? Let's see in this verse. In the next page. The 8 other athletes stopped in their tracks, and the minute he fell down, his falling on the ground was noticed, somehow came under the notice of all the rest of the athletes who were also participating, who were about to run, they were already on the run. But on hearing him stumble down and fall on the floor, they stopped right there immediately, instantaneously in their respective tracks. The ones who had trained for so long to compete, one by one they turned round and came back to help him and lifted the lad to his feet. So this is the most surprising and unexpected thing that has taken place out here. What we see is that definitely all these people participating from all the different corners of the country, they were participating with one aim and objective, and that was to win the race, for which they had trained really hard, worked really hard. But as they were running towards the end line, and due to the unfortunate fall that was brought to their notice, that all of a sudden they too noticed, instead of running ahead towards the end line, towards the finish line, what did they do? They, at the cost of winning the game, participant who had fallen down and helped him on his feet. So this is exactly what David Roth is trying to show to us. You know, as I told you, that this poem celebrates human kindness, compassion and cooperation. And that is exactly what we see being exhibited by these 8 participants who instead they could have run ahead and they could have reached the final line. But what they thought was more important at that hour of need was the need to help him. So that is exactly what they see, what we see being delivered out here by David Roth, and that is explicitly being executed by these 8 different athletes. So that is exactly what we see out here. And see, and lifted the lad to his feet. The lad here is the youngest participant who had fallen down. Then all 9 runners joined hands and continued the 100-meter reduced to a walk. So, and then to everybody's surprise and wonder, not just of the spectators but also us readers, you know, definitely we had expected them to run ahead. But surprisingly, you know, like any other, this was not like any other event, but this was something completely unique. It was in fact a very unique event that had unexpectedly unfolded. You know, these 8 people, after having lifted the 9 participant who was there on the floor or who helped him, after helping him on his feet, all of them, they linked their hands together. They joined their hands together, and joining of their hand together, it symbolizes and it displays togetherness. Alright, and cooperation. That is exactly what we see out here. The 100-meter reduced to a walk, and the meter race, 100-meter race, that was a race of a running race. It was reduced to a walk. For now, none of them were running, but all of them, with their hands linked together, they were walking side by side together, walking towards the finish line. See, true spirit of sportsmanship being displayed by each of these members, you know, and not with it, there is this display of empathy, kindness, and cooperation. You know, that is what we see out here. And the banner above that said, Special Olympics. Now, Special Olympics. Definitely this Special Olympics was meant for people with disabilities. But after hearing of this, after hearing the narration of this event, don't you think this title, Special Olympic, is extremely appropriate? Yes, definitely it is appropriate, because something unique and special really did happen, and that raised marvel, that was completely exemplary on their side. So definitely this banner, Special Olympic, word happened to be appropriate, for there could be nothing more special than what we just heard and witnessed. So could not have been nearer the mark, and obviously we cannot help but agree with what the narrator just said. And then that's how the race ended, with 9 gold medals, and each of these 9 participants, they won a gold medal. Their very winning of gold medal also displays the authority of sports organizations' acknowledgement of their display of such high and exemplary human values and qualities like empathy, qualities like kindness, qualities like cooperation and collaboration, and most importantly, the quality of true sportsmanship, which is one very important theme of this poem. sportsmanship. This is one important theme of this poem that has been explained and narrated so beautifully by David Roth through the event of the 9 participants who finally towards the end, they deserve won the 9 gold medals. In fact, these people, they deserved they did deserve 9 gold medals, a gold medal each, and more than that, they deserve more than that, in fact. You know, and definitely what we see, were they sad? Were they unhappy with it? Or definitely no, because they volunteered, they cooperated, they collaborated, and that can be seen out here in the very next line of the second line of the last verse. They came to the finish line folding hands still, you know, and the banner above and 9 smiling faces. So, and till they reached and crossed the finish line, never even once did they leave each other's hand. With their hands joined and linked together, they completed the race walking and reached the finish line walking together. Alright, and then most importantly, they had a smile in their face. They were very happy, probably on seeing their act of collaboration, their empathy, the way they had empathized towards one of their participants who, one of their competitors, you know, people out there, they must have been struck by wonder, and they must have realized the depth of the contribution and the greatness and the value that they exhibited through their action. You know, probably all the spectators must have given them a standing ovation. In fact, it was worth standing ovation. Don't you agree? Yes, definitely. So they must have received a standing ovation, and that was why that standing ovation must have brought about a smile in each of their faces. Said more than these words ever will, said more than these words ever will. There is not, you know, whatever the narration, through the narration, whatever words and whatever event that we have experienced through the narration of this poet, David Roth, it is something that is worth listening to, and something that is a great eye-opener, and which talks about some very important factors that teaches us great moral lesson, and that is first and foremost it's the sportsmanship, which is also one of the important theme of this poem. And besides sportsmanship, the second theme is celebration of human values. Now, what is sportsmanship? So, sportsmanship is an event where sportsmanship is something wherein you play a game for the sake of it, with strong consideration for fairness, with strong consideration of respect for your other fellow competitors, as well as having a strong sense of fellowship. Alright, all these things comes under sportsmanship. And these 8, in fact, all of these 9 participants, the athletes, they exhibited great spirit of sportsmanship through their very act of kindness, empathy, and consideration and collaboration. You know, for if they did not have that spirit of sportsmanship, probably they would have run ahead. They would not have had the thought. They would a thought to help the participant who was there on the ground, who had fallen on the ground, would not have crossed their mind. But instead, what did they do? They decided to go back, lift him, and help him and walk along with him till the end line. So true spirit of sportsmanship has been delivered and been shown by David Roth through the act of all these participants. And by showing so, by displaying so, we also see the celebration of human values, David Roth, what exactly he's trying to show out here is that sports is not just sports or any activity. In fact, not just sports, but generally, any activity or sports is not just about winning or losing. It is not just about winning medals. It is also about learning. It is also about learning and executing those human values, not forgetting those human values that we inculcate as we go along in the process of training ourselves in this so-called life of ours. And be it sports or any activity. So, and human values like kindness, human values like empathy, human values like cooperation and collaboration, all these things has been stressed upon to be not to be forgotten, but in fact these are even more important than just winning the game. So this is exactly what David Roth speaks about and delivers through this poem, 9 gold medals. In fact, it is a really beautiful poem. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I wish and I request you and I urge all of you, each of you students, to once again go through the explanation that has been given out there in the workbook, right from the themes to the summary to the critical appreciation that has been explained in your workbook. It is such a beautiful explanation and beautiful poem, and I enjoyed thoroughly as I went through, and in fact every year as I go through, it inspires me too, and it motivates me to be more kind. Alright, and I hope it is the same with you all. So we have come to the end of the chapter. So see you next class, in our next virtual class. If there are any more queries or confusions, please, you could always message me in via WhatsApp. I shall always be available. Alright, till then, take care and stay tuned. Thank you very much, my dear children.